Talk about the 8 neurotransmitters that are on your sort of website. Just run them through because a lot of people, this is my first nootropic out of 145 shows. This is the first time we're really going on a deep dive. So talk about these brain neurotransmitters, what they use for generally, if you can sort of just give a brief outline. Obviously, you're a wealth of knowledge, but people are hearing a lot of these terms for the first time. And also then possibly at the same time, look at just describing what happens if they're low or if they're high, what happens to the individual sort of clinically.
Ops, this is fantastic. By the way, at one point in my life, in a previous life, I was hypothyroid and undiagnosed hypothyroid and hypoglycemic, which is a really, really bad combination.
Yeah.
I was living in the Pacific Northwest near Portland, Oregon, and so we don't have a lot of sun up there. We have plenty of rain. So, and as a result of that, I just felt like shit, and I had no motivation. Excuse my language, but
yeah.
I had no motivation, and I also could not think clearly. I literally felt like there was a gauze in front of my eyes, and I just couldn't focus. Any of those things. So solving that was really what got me into nutrition at this level and health. But when it comes to neurotransmitters, there are typically 4 or 5 primary ones that we think of. So the first one is, and we mentioned this earlier, I usually have a picture of Andrew Huberman here that I hold up during this, but essentially dopamine is kind of one of the first ones, and that's your motivation and reward. That's a dopaminergic. It's very much a pleasure molecule. It's very key. And we have a limited amount on a daily basis of renewable dopamine. So it's very valuable to have the precursors to dopamine to be able to actually kind of refill that bucket so that we don't run out. People that use social media, and you're relying on your Facebook likes and your Instagram hearts in order to fuel your life, you're using dopamine with each of those activities. And at one point and it's a great thing for creating addiction. The dopaminergic cycle is how we get addicted to things. It's one of the primary components. So dopamine is really key. If you're low dopamine, you lack motivation. You feel lethargic and you don't feel reward for doing things. So and that kind of feeds back on it. Well, if I don't feel like I'm getting a reward for that, who cares? Why should I do it?
Yeah.
Right? Those kinds of things. And it's also an energetic molecule. So when you feel energetic and you feel like you want to do things on it, one of the great indicators is, again, I'm 61 and I was bodybuilding when I was 23, 24, 25, and actually moved into the back of a health, literally moved into a back of a health club when I started that, to launch my first technology company. And when you're training, you're working out. I call it training because working out is people throwing weights around or doing, whatever. Whereas training has an objective in mind. What am I trying to accomplish? How am I trying to build my body? What are the aesthetics I'm looking for? What's the performance I'm looking for? So it's goal oriented. It has some kind of a criteria of how many reps am I going to do and what my delay is going to be between reps and all of those factors. So when you have good dopamine levels, you want the pain that you get from going in there and kicking ass on some weights or swimming or doing a century bike ride and getting off the saddle and throwing your bike around up a hill. You get the reward from dopamine. As your dopamine starts to decline, which partly happens with age, partly happens with all the activities that we do. Poor physiology can do that, or just burnout in general, is we suddenly don't feel the reward that we would normally get from going and doing things that are painful. And that also goes into confronting issues in our lives. If we don't have enough dopamine, trying to confront an issue with maybe a loved one or with a cohort or with a partner or with an employee, those become really, really tough events to be able to approach. And confronting is hugely fueled by dopamine. So that's the first one.
Sure.
So another one would be serotonin, which we think of as a mood stabilizer. It's not really a happiness molecule, but it is a mood stabilizer that helps us to not go through this kind of negative cycle of depression. So the challenge is too much serotonin and we get foggy. Too little serotonin, we get foggy. Way too much serotonin, we start destroying brain cells.
Yeah.
Not enough serotonin, we could give a shit about life. There's anybody that's ever taken a SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, or an antidepressant, classically classed as an SSRI. And by the way, this is not, I'm not a doctor. I'm not playing the part on the internet, but there is, and they can be lifesavers in the right amount at the right time for the right person in the very right condition under the guidance of a medical professional. But many of the people that I've spoken with who have eventually migrated off of these SSRIs have shared with me the feeling that they got after 4 to 6 months of being on them. And that feeling was, the reason they got on them was because typically an event occurred, or they got into some medical condition precipitated a lack of serotonin. Most of the serotonin is made in the gut. So like keeping your microbiome healthy, something that Bioptimizers does very well, is key. About 90%, anywhere from 85 to 95%, depending on what your microbiome is made up, does that. And then there's a vagal nerve, the vagus nerve, that connects to the brain and will trigger serotonin production in the brain as well. Serotonin doesn't pass the blood-brain barrier. It's too big a molecule. But with the right precursors, it can be created in the brain through these activities. There's an enzymatic activity that happens with some B vitamins and some other, again, downstream metabolites that create serotonin. So phenylalanine, which is a amino acid, is a great precursor to that. And a little bit of L-tyrosine can help in there, or acetyl L-tyrosine can help in that. But so with that, what you're trying to do, or what we found with people that were on that, is what an SSRI does is it traps serotonin between the synapse. Calcium ion cloud surrounds it, and what it's doing is basically saying to your serotonin, no, serotonin is going to cross the synaptic gap. It's going to go into the new neuron. Then it's going to flow back to the original synapse. And it's going to flow forward and back until that calcium ion cloud dissipates. And then suddenly it flows one way and it's broken down. And that's it. Well, there's a signal that occurs whenever you start recycling neurochemicals in the brain. That signaling tells the brain, hey, I got enough serotonin. Don't give me any more. Same thing happens in the dopaminergic when you get on Adderall or similar, right? So it basically says, hey, I got enough dopamine. I don't need any more. Well, when that happens, as soon as the drug wears off, as soon as its half-life is complete, your brain goes, where the hell do I get the dopamine, or where's my serotonin, right? And it's struggling to try to keep up. People on Adderall will tell you that they just feel, once the Adderall wears off, they feel depressed, they feel unmotivated, they become couch potatoes. People on SSRIs, when they go off them, they get frightened, they get anxiety, because they're starting to feel this kind of like this anxiety that comes up, this pressure that comes up that says, holy crap, I need more serotonin. And their body's not making it because it's been downregulated. And again, this reverse feedback loop causes this deficit of a very critical neurochemical. What we like to do, again, is we like to give you the precursors and then signaling molecules that say, hey, you've got all the raw product. How much do you want? We've got a machine. We can produce as much as you want. Yeah. We can produce surplus if you need, to be able to handle the kind of events that take that neurochemical. Right. So now we've got dopamine. We've done serotonin. Next one is GABA, and GABA is a very critical neurotransmitter to chill. If you want to be able to make really clear decisions, having enough GABA in your system so that you're not flying off the walls and making just these rather emotional decisions, or they're just unclear, you don't have outcomes in mind, or you're not thinking through third order consequences. All right. If you're not doing that, that's where GABA can really come in. And in fact, we have a GABA spray called Zamner juice. Yeah. Zamner juice, GABA spray, right? I don't know if you've tried that yet, but
no, I just tried one because I wanted to speak to you. The Nectar X made a big difference. I realized that. So obviously now we're going to try the Zamner juice under your guidance and under the test, because I think that's really, really important. I think the process is important. That's what you're saying. Okay, so Zamner juice and GABA.
Yep. Zamner juice, GABA. We also have a drink called GABAlicious as well, which is a pure GABA drink. I built it as an alternative to martinis after hours. Wow. And you can take it during the day. A lot of our clients sip it during the day that have a deficit of GABA transmitter. And again, GABA is the chill, relax. But one of its superpowers is its ability to help you make long-term decisions, and to be able to make them without the stress or anxiety of what if I'm not doing the right decision, or what if I don't make the perfect decision. It doesn't get you into wrong decision making. It helps you make the right decision, not only for now, but for the second or third or fourth step down the line, where there may be some repercussions that you need to rethink. So it helps you make really good long-term decisions. And it's really powerful for actually taking the edge. Like if you find yourself wired to the gills because you just did a extra large venti Starbucks, right, and you're smoking on that, and then suddenly you're doing some nootropics or something else, and suddenly you're starting to rifle up those levels of stims. There's nothing like a little Xamarin Juice to chill you down. This beautiful. I developed for a medical professional, a woman who owned emergency care clinics in the Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon. And because Portland, Oregon has grown so big over the last few years, it's over 2 million people, the arterial freeways are parking lots most of the day, very much like Los Angeles or San Jose. And so unless you hit it at just the right time, you're in a parking lot. And so she came to me because she said, here's a problem. I'm trying to manage all of these institutions I've got. I think she had 7 of these critical care clinics. And she goes, I'm stuck in traffic half the time. And when I'm stuck in traffic, I want to go get out of my car, go to the trucker in front of me, rip him out of the cab, beat the shit out of him, take his truck and mow over the rest of the cars to get to my destination. So she said, make me the anti, drink. And so that's what this is. And because I needed it to act fast, I made it a sublingual spray so that just a few sprays under the tongue and it immediately goes to work, increasing GABA levels so that you're able to make better decisions, not kill all the friendly truckers on the road, and be able to make it so that you don't.
We need that. We got power cuts like 4 times a day. Yeah, we need GABA-licious, that we need Xamarin Juice too. So yeah, we got to get that in Africa. Okay, so cool. So GABA, serotonin, dopamine. Next one.
So the next one is, and this is a super critical one that people need to know how to manage, and that is acetylcholine. So again, acetylcholine is memory, recall, thinking, and often it's involved in the creative process. Now, Stephen Kotler would argue with me. In fact, he did argue we had a Facebook argument one day on how critical it is to flow. And he says, no, I don't think acetylcholine is in flow state. And I think exactly the opposite. I think it's a steady, low flow of acetylcholine helps us to get into this kind of process of being able to manage a bunch of creative lateral thinking things without our brain getting in the way, without if we have the executive function blocking us, because very much like we spoke about with GABA, if we're afraid to make a move because we don't understand what the outcomes can be, that's a block. But if we don't give a shit, if we go, all I'm going to do is I'm going to outflow ideas and I'm going to get creative. I'm going to work with my teams and I'm going to, no idea is a bad idea, right? Let's just get that open. And that's where acetylcholine can be super powerful. And again, what it does is it helps you to memorize. It helps you to recall. So one of the things you'll notice on almost every nootropic stack is there a source of choline or there's a precursors to choline. And that's really powerful in helping you get to these cognitive performance levels that we all talk about. Again, when we think about Bradley Cooper taking the clear pill, walking up the stairs to the apartment complex, and he suddenly the lights come on, everything's a little sharper, the lights are a little bluer, his eyes are crisp, he hears the bicycle wheel spinning, he sees the book in the book bag from his landlord's sweetheart, and he's able to recall where he saw that back years ago in his college life. That's real. You can actually have that experience, and it's not just a one-time thing. But the other important characteristic of acetylcholine is it helps to groove in neural pathways. So neural pathways are the conduit. They're the superhighway in the brain to the accessing the different things we want, the different memories we have, the different colors. For me, I'm a pattern recognition guy. So I remember things by going, it's on page 184, it's in the upper right-hand corner, and there was an ad below it that was there was a 1 column inch ad that ran 2 inches long. And that's how my brain works in recalling information. If I have a deficit of acetylcholine, meaning I don't have enough, I will have a tendency to kind of see it for a glimpse, but then it'll go away and I go, God, where the hell was that?
Yeah.
Whereas if I have enough acetylcholine, it's perfect. It's actually as I'm thinking about it, it's coming into focus and coming into view.
Brilliant.
So, and that's why it's a very critical part of a nootropic stack, is to have acetylcholine precursors and sources of acetylcholine to flow into that synapse and give you that recall. And again, one of the cool things that happens, Steve, is as you start building neural pathways, as you start up leveling your performance through these nootropics, and you get those different neurotransmitters in balance and optimized, kind of like a rock band. You've got one, you got the bass, you got the treble, you've got your guitarist, and you got your keyboardist, and you got your vocals and drums. Each one of those is a neurotransmitter. And sometimes you want a drum solo, and sometimes you want a cappella vocals. Sometimes you want all of them working very smoothly across all their ranges with a little bit of bass coming in at the right time, a little slap. You got Flea doing slap and pop on a little, right, on Red Hot Chili Peppers, or you've got, and you want to get Steve Vai doing this incredible extended note that he's wagging there on the guitar. And that's kind of how the neurotransmitters work. And when you start getting those things in balance, you don't need the nootropics will be there to just boost them higher. But as you're building neural pathways, they become permanent parts of yourself. As you start building your body, you start building your nutritional levels, and you're getting your workouts in comfort. You start breathing well. You start doing all of the things. You meditate. You take time out during the day to do those, whether it's Pomodoro technique or other things, where you're cycling your energy and you're optimizing your energy levels. Then the nootropics become these superpower that help take you from sick to superhuman.
Yeah.
And those are levels when you understand, and we have a free book that we give away on the website as well. You can download the PDF.
Okay.
And it helps you to understand how the neurochemicals are going to work for you. And then even how you can slot in our solutions, our different solutions, to be able to optimize that neurochemical balance you want in your life at that moment, to get that thing done that you want to accomplish for the period of time that you need to accomplish that thing. And that's when things get really exciting, because you're running at a hyper effective level.
Okay.
Your confidence goes up, your ability to execute goes up. Yeah.